Welcome to another episode of the Wood Couture podcast, special edition, the incredible Indian designer series, recording live here at the Andaz Hotel in Aero City, Delhi. Today, we have a pleasure of welcoming to our podcast a legend, a master, a gentleman that wrote two books, not only one, two books. Here we are, bestsellers. The one and only Vistasp Bhagwagar.
Bhagwagar.
Yeah. I'm doing well. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Filippo. Lovely to be here and to talk to you and be part of this podcast. I think it's a fabulous effort you all are doing in trying to spread, the good work that the fraternity does but does not get mentioned. So I think that's a great thing.
Apart from writing books, you're also the founder and the principal designer of AV Design and also founder of Vienna Design Hotel.
Yes, correct.
Right. So, but we're going to touch base on this later, these two babies later.
Yes, sure.
But first, from a 30 plus award, interior architecture firm, an architect, and an individual, we want to know, when did you find out architecture is for you?
Lovely. I love answering that question. I always used to draw as a child, and I used to win every painting competition. And my father was an engineer, and he said, "You can do what I can't do." And so he somehow made sure I did not miss any of these. And I tried to fulfill his dream. He could never draw one line straight. So he became an engineer. Because he would use the ruler and I used my free hand. So I became an architect more out of the fact that he was an engineer and he wanted to be an architect and I wanted to fulfill that dream. And somewhere I think there's this little thing called Lego. Do you know Lego?
Yes.
So I used to love playing with Lego and make new things and not follow the manual. And, so there was everything in me that really wanted to use my hands, use my mind, and enjoy creativity.
I understand that there are three names that comes to your mind: Charles Correa, Corbusier, and B.V. Doshi.
Yes.
What do they mean to you?
I think they're the gods of architecture. And they all have, their own ways of doing things. I think of the three, Charles Correa is right up there for me because, he made this very difficult subject so easy and so childlike. I think one of the most wonderful bits of influence were, his buildings, which were very cubic in nature with, extruded voids and masses and the use of color. I thought, learning from him was one thing about simplicity being the essence of architecture. And I think he's the god. He's right up there. I'm sure he's doing some things. He's no more, but I'm sure he's making the heavens a better place.
Have you found these names along your journey or, before or after your master at Oxford University?
These were the masters we anyways used to follow even in undergrad days. So I did my undergraduation from School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi. These were the heroes we used to look up to. And, they used to influence our way of thinking. We would do anything to, produce the kind of work that they would inspire us to do. I think they were our Marvel heroes. We never had Marvel heroes then. So these were our Marvel heroes. And I think, they've influenced this entire generation of ours that graduated in the 90s.
Along your professional journey, apart from this master that we are looking up at, have you had a mentor or somebody that you were, consulting with, to find inspiration?
Well, I think the only mentor I could possibly have was my professor who taught us architecture in college and was the one person who taught us how to draw perspectives, which is a very important skill for an architect. His name is Professor Anil Lal. He's no more. He passed away a few years back. But he was the one person who, again, simplified architecture and simplified sustainable architecture in ways that you cannot think. When we in the late 80s and 90s and early 90s were exposed to geodesic domes and exposed to arrow beams and funicular shells and all that sort of alternate technology, it blew our mind open. It was really fantastic. And I think he has been a mentor and guide in very many ways. I know every time I would be depressed or have a problem, I would go to him, but his standard thing was, you come to me, you come with a bottle of wine. Do not come empty-handed. And so, so he enjoyed his wine and his whiskey, and so that was not a problem.
What is the best business advice you've been given?
I think honestly, I don't think I've ever received any business advice, and I would feel it's my duty to write a third book on, the design of business and the business of design. It's really something that I feel, one should do, because a lot of us people straight out of architecture school, at that stage would believe it was an age of star architects, where you always had one hero who would be running his business in his name. I think today's age is more about collaboration. The one business advice I give to every youngster nowadays is find like minded people, because you cannot do it on your own. This profession is very demanding. You need to actually collaborate and work in a manner that makes life easier for yourself, and you're not running in the business, you're running the business.
I know if I walk in your office, I look up, there is a sentence. Every grand design begin with a story.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my God, you've done great research. All right, so look, I honestly believe good architecture and good designers need to be storytellers. We need to inspire people who come to our office. And so every time when they climb up and they look at that, every great design begins with a story. It's about telling them that, look, you got to be motivated when you step past this door and you come into the office. Because I think, if you're not motivated, you don't have the right energy levels, how are you going to create that positivity, that energy that is needed in design? I think when you step into an architecture studio or when you step into a creative studio, you need to come with the mindset of positivity, happiness, energy. And I think those are the kind of things that we bring in our office.
Yeah. Building upon the word positive, I want to lead to your book as well. And I'm going to come back to your work. Rightly so, your book is Positivity in the Workplace, available on Amazon too, right?
Yes.
So why have you felt the need of writing a book about positivity at work?
Okay, so the time was 2019-20 when the world shut down due to COVID. And one thought, what should one do beyond just being locked up at home? And so it struck me that why don't I put down 30 principles of design, as to how do you make workspaces. And, workspace is one of our main verticals of work, and hospitality is another. So how do you put down 30 principles of, of going about the business of design, to commemorate almost 30 years of existence? And so I set that motion up. I set that as a priority, and I decided that let's do this book. I wrote this book in 4 months. And yes, because, it was part of trying to get your, the kind of flow. You could take 4 years also to write a book.
285 pages.
Yes.
In 4 months.
4 months. And it took me another 8 months to publish it. That was the difficult part. So I think a lot of business advisory is needed for architects. I think we can do creative things, but I think somewhere we are technocrats. We need to start becoming better managers and better administrators.
But considering that, if I read down the line, you're saying it took me 4 months to write 285 pages with very clear, thoughts in there. But then the execution part, so referred to as design, the execution part is 8 months of publishing, is the most difficult part of the
Yeah, because you've never done it before.
So, and I'm leading to the second one. So, and I would imagine that the benefit of an owner coming to you is that you've been an owner yourself.
Yes.
So you understand their problems. And second thing is there is a lot of lessons learned from this. And we are sitting in a hotel. So tell us a bit of the lessons you learned while you were as an owner and as,
So I had this 10-year itch where I really wanted to, create a boutique hotel which had not been made before. And I could not find a client, and I said, why not do it yourself? Because many times the best movies are those whose scripts you've written yourself and then you produce yourself rather than, trying to look for somebody to do it. So here was this project where, it took us 2 years to find a piece of land in North Goa. And, the idea was, why not build a kind of architecture which is appropriate, which is contextual, which is responsive to environment, which is sustainable, and why not demonstrate all those principles? So that even larger hotel brands take note and understand that, look, this is the way, the world is moving. And today, every larger hotel brand has got its boutique, brand within that brand. It has a sub brand. So for me, this was more about trying to fulfill a dream, but it was also about trying to demonstrate a kind of architecture that I wanted to do, which was very experiential for the guest, and which was also, something that was memorable. And I just feel that, every architect must build. Every good actor must produce. Okay, every artist, must, be a publisher. I think you should not remain just within the closed confines of what comes your way. I think you should break through the doors and go beyond and do something that the world takes notice of.
so after you done this project, what were you doing differently than you were not doing before?
So before I was doing this project, we were doing a lot of cookie cutter kind of, projects where you have a building, you have 100 rooms, or so a lot of standard kind of hotel projects. But after having done this project today, I'm doing a project in Leh, which is, right up north in Ladakh, where you can only build 4 months in a year. Today we're doing a project in Corbett, which is a jungle. Today we're doing the kind of work that we really enjoy doing, because, people have taken notice of the fact that, here is somebody who's ready to think beyond what is being done. We like to go beyond, what's already been established as a way of doing things, and think a little differently. I think that's the joy of architecture. I think architecture is all about exploration.
It's interesting because this one was this 10 years ago, 20.
This took 10 years to build. This was inaugurated in June 2023. So it was a 10-year journey. I started this in 2012 to start looking for land, to then start getting planning permissions, to start looking for investor friends, because, I have a couple of good friends who came into this as well. So this was a 10-year project as such, and completed in June 2023.
It's interesting because looking at the trends right now, experiential travel is very much what on top of the agenda of every developer, but also very wealthy clientele. They're looking for something different. And you were very visionary at that time, considering that 15 years ago, you had the vision of building an experience.
Yeah.
And nowadays the experience is here, is exactly in your place.
So I think, yes, I've been very clear, and I always say this to a lot of designers in our office as well, that hospitality design does not need to be costly. It needs to be experiential. And to get the right experience, you do not need to use rich materials. You need to use the right materials. What is right depends upon the context, and does not depend upon, whims and fancies of an architect or even the owner. I think the more subtle and the more softer you are, and the more clear you are on, how your hotel is going to blend into an environment, the better it is. And so that's my genre. That's my area of work where I'd rather like to work on things which are very contextual. If we're doing something in Goa, it'll be Mediterranean, like I did out here. Or if I'm doing something, in Leh, Ladakh, I would be studying the architecture that is relevant out there, and the materiality and the systems that work out there, and would do that appropriately. And I think that is what good architecture is about.
So is it fair to conclude that um, i- uh, if there is a very detailed design, a thought process behind, detailed documentation, and the right material, the execution should follow in the same good way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if there is a process, then there is a good product. And I think if the process is well grounded and well intentioned, um, and I think if one is able to actually have a concept in mind, have clarity of thought, and to and to sort of clear out the mind of all the fuzz around us. We have too much of stimuli as a society, or as a fraternity. There's too much of inputs coming. The more one could clear it out, the more you understand less is more, and the more you can focus on a particular direction and keep out the clutter. I think that's when design reaches its purest form.
From the experience that you had in building your hotel, designing your hotel, can we consider a myth that sustainability is expensive?
Sustainability is actually cheaper than being non-sustainable. Okay, sustainability is not about getting a rubber stamp. Sustainability is about being true to a site and being true to a context. When we built the hotel, we were very clear that we would follow the topography of the land that leads to the river. When we built the hotel, we were clear we will be under the height of the palm trees around. We would not overbuild. We did not use the maximum building permissions which were there. We said, let us build within a means, let us give more space per client, per customer. Let's create an experience that he would come back to and want to rewind. Now, how did we do all this? Because we were very clear that our end customer was the mature, seasoned traveler, not the young person who wants a lot of stimulation. So we had a more relaxed, laid back kind of hotel. I want to add something about this book. This book is not only about the hotel. In parallel is a story about how you can achieve any dream by following boths. Boths is a concept which talks about belief, ownership, action, trust, and sustenance. If you believe in something, if you take ownership of that particular belief, and you try to make it real, if you take action in trying to make it real, if you trust the process, and you trust your team, and you trust the gods, the almighty, and you have the power to sustain through the most difficult times, you can achieve any dream. And that's what this book is more about.
I- Is what was your dream when you were young?
My dream was to just do well at whatever one wanted to do. That's it. And just enjoy yourself.
So is your personal story that I have achieved my dream? Is that what you want to say?
Yes, I have. I have achieved my dream, and now my next dream is something else.
So the day you're gonna slow down, not retire, you don't look like the guy gonna retire.
I am not the guy who retired.
Never. So how would you like to be remembered?
I would like to be remembered as somebody, who's always got the energy of a 26-year-old, and who's always after everybody to raise their levels of performance. I do feel that you need to not just do well, you need to excel in whatever you do. And if you aim for the the skies, you reach the clouds. And I think we all need to be activists of perfection. Try to be the better versions of ourselves. We all have great potential. I was reading this book called The Unfair Advantage, which really talks about how all of us have something in us that is so unique that we just have to dig deep, bring it out, and work on it.
Wow, it's a very powerful message, particularly for the younger generation. No, that anything they believe come from Instagram, Pinterest, rather than from an inner side of themselves.
So I must say this. A lot of the youngsters are wasting time Google searching. Our generation was soul searching. Okay, and I think it's very important to learn from the earlier generation and to, dig deep into your own soul and understand yourself. What is it that you bring to this earth? And what is it that gives you joy and can give happiness through your excelling in that joy to others?
Also, uh, another thing I want to ask you is the following. In the context of young generation and technology, now the flavor of the month is AI, artificial intelligence,
Yes.
and seems that every architecture firm dive into AI. What's your views and how do you feel about AI?
AI is this brand new vehicle which you get into and you zoom. It's just a tool. It's just a way of getting from A to B. I don't see AI as replacing human beings. I still feel AI is very much fed by the energy of creative human beings. And I just hope that a lot of, good algorithms go into AI and it serves the future generation. What worries me about AI is if AI were to become this car without a driver, as an example. If you started driving cars like Tesla is doing, where you have cars without drivers, you're becoming a little bit a slave to technology. And I think human beings should always be leading the front and driving the car or driving the design, and should only look at AI as a tool which helps you to, do things better and faster and, look at more options and more possibilities.
I would love to put in AI the 30 principle of good design of workplace and see what comes out.
Oh, yeah.
So we leave the people to buy the book and learn it and then put it in AI and then let's see what come out.
Yeah.
Also, some of your colleagues, the other interviewee, and they said, uh, unlike fashion designers, where everybody knows who they are, also the fraternity of the interior architecture started. Inside the fraternity, inside the conference, everybody know who we are. The moment we step out, we don't get recognition. But we start seeing now that some residential building designed by some of you start achieving selling prices with a premium because of your experience, your name,
Yeah.
effectively. Do you believe the India is getting towards the star architect, the fact, in a sense, not as the prima donna, but as quality design?
I think India is a land of plenty. There's so much of work. There's so many people. I still feel architects are serving a very small percentage of the need out there. I think most of India builds on its own. I think architects need to be humble and down to earth in our country and understand that there is so much to do really, and it's not just in the tier one cities. It's in the tier two, tier three cities, in the hinterlands, in the rural areas. There's so much really to do. I honestly do not believe in star architects anymore. I do not think there are any star architects because the stars have already been there. They're already in the sky. We are just people who are, who need to follow our own route and you know, make a make our own destination in many ways. Um, I feel a lot of youngsters, should not be guided into thinking that architecture is all about stars, architecture is all about glory. I think architecture is a lot about perseverance. It's about sticking to routines. It's about perfection. It's about time. There is no instant noodles in architecture. Okay, it's an a la carte meal. It's not a buffet meal picked up, heated, and served the next day. It's really made to order, and I think There is no instant glamour, instant success unless you put the hard yards in and you really, make something out of your practice.
Interesting. That's an interesting point of view. So, um, now for the people that are watching, that as far as Australia, why are India designers incredible?
Oh, I think we've got to thank our, our heritage. I think the legacy that we have, the kind of ancient architecture and the kind of ancient art and craft that we have. We're so blessed with that. Um, we really need to look within. I keep saying that we need to soul search as a country and not look for inspirations from outside, but really look for something from inside. I'm not going to reveal to you too much, but I'm going to tell you that we are looking deep into our own heritage and are going to come up with the kind of hotel that's never been thought about.
Oh wow! Oh wow! You can't finish it like that. It's not possible. It's we need to shoot another episode to talk about that.
We can do that once that hotel is complete. So at this point of time, it's a concept which is going to be out of this world. It's going to be very Indian, and it's going to be something that has not been done before.
Essentially, India hospitality.
Yes,
Wow!
absolutely.
I can't wait. But you need to put it in a book also, because I'm sure we need the third one. There's only two right now, apart from the other one. And so, looking at, I know it's an unfair question because it requires preparations, but if we had a crystal ball and we want to look a bit in the next 5 years, what do you think is going to be the trends that will characterize the India architecture, industry or scene?
Um, well, it's really difficult. I think we have been talking about um, architecture having to be sustainable for years. We really need to find um, architects need to be activists. Um, that's something I've said in a lot of public forums. I think the future of architecture is going to be architects willing to adopt certain streets and neighborhoods and do work. I would not say pro bono, but do work in a manner to activate those areas, adopt a street, adopt a neighborhood, try and better it, try and bring public involvement into, how much can a government do? We're actually talking about public involvement now and public participation and try and increase, try and, raise the level of life in every corner and every space that you can. So I see the future of architects as being activists who start leading the way and getting out of their offices and ivory towers and doing work more at a community level. And that's so important.
Wow, that's very interesting. One final technical question that is more follow the principle of architecture that after forms comes functionality.
Yeah.
Right. But can functionality sometimes be compromised to achieve aesthetically pleasing forms?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we should get out of this, trap of function follows form or form follows function. I think it's about talking to a site. It's about talking to a space and trying to ask that space what is suitable for you and trying to converse with that, and going back deep inside your own self and trying to realize what is it that you can do to better this place. There are so many sites which are better off without the buildings that were made on them. You have some of the most ugly architecture that also comes up in cities. I think it's a responsibility of us as architects to really converse with a site, speak to the site, and try and understand what is suitable for that place. And I think you get the answers if you follow that process.
Two of the greatest civilizations on the planet, China and India, have two set of guiding principles, feng shui for them and Vastu in India.
Yeah.
But how much of this do you incorporate in your design?
Well, we are incorporating Vastu in every 5 out of 10 projects.
Wow.
Yes, and that includes hotel projects. We will have clients fighting with us if the reception table is not facing in the right direction. We will have problems if we don't have our entries in the right directions. I keep saying the kind of issues that we as Indian architects deal with is not just Vastu, it's the heat, it's the dust, it is the maintenance aspect. How do you design something that is easy to maintain? How do you design out a problem? How do you design for different stratas of society so that they all feel welcome? There are so many issues, and I think that's what makes practice in India so interesting.
Listening to all of you, I feel like saying that Vastu is the mother of sustainability. Because if you adopt those principles, you should have no problem on, the right sun, the heat, the cold.
Absolutely, I think Vastu is great, but even if you leave Vastu on the side, the basic principles of climatology were already part of Indian architectural heritage. And it's just about looking within and looking at all the work done by, people 300 or 400 years back as well, and understand that how, in the same kind of context, people would deal with heat without air conditioning, without guzzling energy, and without the kind of carbonization that is happening, the carbon emissions that are happening. I think these are things to learn. So the more there's a phrase, go vocal for local. The more you are local in the way you do things, in the way you source materials, in the technologies you use, and the more simpler you are, I think it leads to a better architecture.
Although you serve your client in a spectacular manner, because I'm sure only listening to you is a lesson of life. But and I've not purposely asked you about any other project because I felt that this is probably your proudest. It's not a question of best or worst. It's your proudest moment. You achieve your dream. But for people that don't know you, what are the other projects that say that fulfilled you a lot? That you can say name one or two.
I always believe my best project is going to be next. I really do not believe in the past. I think as architects we are hungry to always make the next project on the drawing board the best project, and I think that's the way you live life. Every coming day is a better day than the day you lived, in the past, and it's with that attitude that we embrace life, and we take on all the challenges that life has to throw to us. So I would not say any project is the best in the past. I would say we always want to do better than what we did in the past.
In pursuit of perfection.
Absolutely.
So, on final question, and it is a classic, but for an architect, it is a must. So, if I give you a pencil and I take a massive white canvas, put it on top of the tallest building on the planet, Burj Khalifa for the time being, what message would you write on it so everybody can see it?
What message would I write on top of the
On the white canvas on top of the Burj Khalifa? Huge white canvas so everybody can see it.
Well, if you aim for the skies, you reach the clouds. That would be my message. And that's what my book is all about as well.
Yeah, I was going to say probably I write books. Fantastic. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.